Yep,
Anna?
everyone's on.
Even Anna?
Yep.
Oh, good.
And that'd be, at 6 o'clock. Alright, phone shut off.
Okay, we're going live.
Okay.
Uh-oh. We're live.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody here ready to go?
Yes.
Nod your head, shake your head. Okay. We'll rise here, do the pledge. Flag's over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At least I think it's over there. Okay. We're going to do roll call.
Dave Rounds,
Here.
Anna Berger,
Here.
Amber Valley,
Here.
Molly McGee,
Here.
Dan Hussey,
Here.
Dan's on a delay. 3.0 action items. 3.1 approval of agenda. Do you have any questions on the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Make a motion. I make a motion we approve the agenda.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Hi. Hi.
Okay. 3.2 approval of consent agenda. Anybody got questions on the consent agenda? No questions. Can I get an approval?
I make a motion we approve it.
I'll second it.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
we have,
Oh,
we have to
Aye.
Hi.
approve the amended minutes.
I don't know anything about the
So
word.
it's,
B, wasn't the approval of the amended minutes part of the consent agenda? Do we have to do that separately?
we don't have to do it separately.
Okay.
Or would you rather?
No, I think it's all together would be okay. It's just that I didn't want to miss that.
Okay.
Okay, so we're at 3.3, is that correct? Is that
Yeah.
where we're at?
Yes.
Okay, 3.3 old business. 3.3.1 facility needs update.
Two things, Mr. Chairman, for this evening. One is it has become obvious to us that we have a leak in the water line running from Loving Care and More all the way down to the field house. It's about a 200-yard stretch, and we have no idea as of this evening where the leak might be. But we've shut off all of the water at the field house, Tony's shop, and the meter is still running. So we're trying to search out options where we could diagnose where the leak might be. And I don't know what all of that's going to entail. I just know that that's an issue. As we get closer and closer to having to water the grounds, that particular water source servicing Sather Fields clubhouse or field house, but all of that ground north of the track is watered from that water source to keep it irrigated. So we probably are going to have to address the issue somewhere along the line. And so Tony and I have been talking about what the options are or were. So that's the one issue. The second issue is we've been talking about the Silver Hills Elementary safety issues with getting new clocks, new speaker system, new communications, and Todd has been communicating he's been communicating with everybody in the Coeur d'Alene, Spokane area that does these kinds of things 2 people have communicated regularly back with him, and he has projections of cost to what systems might be. One of those is what I call a very generic approach, and the cost of that approach would be $47,000. And basically, it's speaker system, intercom system, bells, clocks, those kinds of things. The other system is a Cadillac, potentially, of systems, and obviously has a Cadillac price attached to it, $174,000. Probably one of the biggest items of that 174 is a camera system that would be installed in every classroom that you could turn on or turn off anytime that you wanted. And I've been talking to Todd about the fact that I don't know that that's all that necessary. We don't do a lot of filming of our teaching staff. We don't obviously have a camera we can turn on if a student is being disruptive, and that we could monitor them like we do on the school bus from time to time. But, you know, for my looking down the list of items, that's one that we might, in my book, deal without and would save $50,000. If at some later point it could be added back in down the road. The $47,000 proposal, there could not be any modifications, add-ons, or whatever. It's the complete system and only system is the 47. The 174 has some different options, and so I thought tonight would make you aware of that approach. Todd's here, and he's been talking with these gentlemen that you might direct us to call for bids, so we could formalize the process a little bit.
Well, I think Todd, do you know where you want to go with this? As far as, you know, what type of,
I met with on a Zoom meeting today with a salesman rep and a product engineer from the company of the higher of the 2 bids. And one of the things that they discussed today that was interesting was that some districts that have this already are using that as a platform for their soft closure platform for recording and saving videos and instructional pieces and then sending it out to kids. And one of the things that they said that was beneficial is it gives them a consistent platform across the board. It links to things where they could save it to like a Google Classroom scenario, which we're using. And they said what was really beneficial is that they can record things, save them to a memory stick, and that can be sent home for kids that don't have Wi-Fi connectivity. So when we were dealing with all of those things at some level, I don't know how many kids don't have Wi-Fi. So it's filling a niche way beyond just the safety and security and communication within the school. It is a significant cost difference, but if we can get some buy-in, I think not only does it cover our safety and security, it very well could help us deal with any type of soft closure moving forward. And I think there's some professional development value in it as well, but that would have to be, of course, bought into by staff and as we move forward. So,
well, there's a big difference between 174,000 and 47,000.
Hey, Todd,
go ahead.
what's the difference? So at the end of your letter, you talk about that if you don't use the camera portion or some portion of the product that we wouldn't be getting yet, it's 99,000. So for that extra 52,000, is there anything different that we wouldn't be getting from the 47,000 system, the other system?
So to compare as close to apples as I could, One is the 47, and if we're going to do just the bells and intercom phones, that part, the original quote was for 104, but they said because of the slowdown they had a 10% discount going, so that's where it gets down in that 90 whatever thousand range. So that would be the comparison between the two costs, 47 and roughly 100,000 for pretty much covering the same thing. The only difference is one system, you get what you get and you're done. The other system could allow us to add in the some additional safety security things, some audio and video recording capabilities.
And then on that ATS quote, it says it assumes our current land phone systems in place and functional. Do we have like extra costs in buying more phone lines in and out with that one that you don't have any other one, or
The
are
classrooms
the
have a
phones
cap.
white phones, or what are they?
I didn't hear that. What was it?
I didn't hear that part. What was your last question?
I guess I was asking if they're like a traditional landline phone or on that advanced classroom technologies, or if they're more of a VoIP phone that'd be running over the internet system.
It's pretty similar to the office phones that we have now, the old Toshibas. So there would be the ability to page in between rooms via the phone and call outside. As far as any type of internet connectivity, I don't know. We never really talked about that piece. So more traditional use of the phones, I know that it'll cover those things. I talked to Dave Ewers. He said we have a Cat 6 line into every classroom already from the main terminal there by the library. So I would assume then from that we have the capability, and that would not be an extra cost setting those up. There's actually drops already in the rooms. We don't have phones in most, so I couldn't say that we've tested all of those drops to make sure that the receptacles work, but they're there.
And so what exactly is it you're asking us to do today? Just give you a nod to start seeking?
I think we ought to call
Bids.
for bids and to see and get it pretty squared up to what it is we might be looking at. We've asked for prices. They've at least been able to provide that to us, but these aren't bids that we've gotten.
What happened?
Well,
Okay.
Oh, Amber.
Oh, we're just
we don't need a motion, do we?
Wait,
to
hold
go
on.
ahead for bids?
To
What-
direct us.
What happened? Sorry.
We do?
Yeah, I think so.
we have questions.
Yeah. Oh, there's.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have a reoccurring annual fee, subscription fees, things like that for either of these?
I'd have to look at the estimates and see.
Well, I'd say if you just need us to give you direction to get bids, then we should do that. And that way Todd can get all the answers to the questions we may have.
Yeah, narrow it down to exactly what items we're looking at here.
Okay.
So, can I get a
Be inclined
motion?
to want to go with this.
So can I get a
I
motion?
was going to say I'd be inclined.
You're cutting out on us. You'd be inclined to what?
Go with the system that we can add on to in the future. That seems the most logical.
I agree with that. So can I get a motion to tell these guys to go ahead and start seeking bids?
I'll make a motion that we ask Todd or whoever to go out and get bids for these from these two companies.
I'll second it. Does anybody have any more discussion or questions they want on this?
Is he getting bids from both companies still, even though
I
You're
believe so.
wanting to look more at the one?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Johnson Controls might throw one in there. Just when I think he's not going to respond, he'll send me an email. So I've got a phone call for him. And Simplex, Grinnell, and Johnson Controls is all kind of one. I don't think they can do everything on the list, but I agreed to talk to him again. I'm going to just see for sure what they can offer. If it's only part of the solution, and I don't think we want to go down that route, because then we'll be dealing with multiple companies where we can just deal with one and get everything done. But I'll let you know if they do turn something in.
Okay.
Okay, all in, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion to start accepting bids?
Aye.
I,
Okay. Moving on to, other facility things, the coach Brands and the track coach has, got together with Bruce, and they've got Kip McGilvery and I believe Zanetti's involved, and they, redid the shot put, ring and the, measuring areas. So they did a bunch of work down there on money they've raised, and didn't cost the district any money, but it looks really nice. Where we're at right now, as far as the track goes, we're ready. One of the things we're looking a year or two ago about resurfacing the track. The guy said you got to get your water problem fixed, and you got to get these other things done. We've done that, so I want to add to the list a touch-up surface and new lines on the track as a wish list item. Resurfacing the track, basically. It's about time to get it redone, and it definitely needs lines. I mean, bare minimum, we need to look at new lines. And Anna, you've been down there enough to know what kind of condition it's in.
yeah,
So,
and it was actually on the wish list prior.
yes, it was. And then it got kind of bumped back with the water issue. Anything else on facilities?
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the issue about the water leak
Yes.
between Loving Care and Moore and the field house. And I think there are acoustic devices that a guy could come out and
Listen.
basically hear the leak. Yeah, and as he walks along where the water line goes, I think it's possible to use an acoustic device or have a guy come out who does that and hear the leak. You know anything about that, Molly?
It sounds familiar, Dan, but I don't know anything about it. I can ask about it at work tomorrow and see.
Okay.
Yeah,
Send
and
an
Tony
email back
Tony
to-
can get a hold of the water district people and ask them if they know of anybody that can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be our first line of attack. Finding where the leak at is going to be, we got to start digging up to find it. That's going to start adding up fast.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
Okay, anything else on facilities? Okay, moving on to 3.4 new business. 3.4.1, reaffirm school closure until the end of the calendar year. Bob?
Mr. Chairman, just about every morning at 8 o'clock, the Region 1 superintendents have a collaborative phone call tree going, and we talk about all of the issues confronting the school districts, certainly in North Idaho. And one of the constant conversations is about reopening the school. And we look at the governor's recommendations in the 4 phases of reopening. We look at the State Board of Education's guidelines. We look at the State Department of Education guidelines. And while there are a growing similarity between those, typically the first item on their list is maintaining social distancing. And I think we're all unanimous in the school business. I could have hugged Jerry Kane's neck this morning because he just says there's no way we can make any assurances that we can guarantee social distancing in our schools. To think that kindergarten, first, second, third graders are going to stay 6 feet away from each other and going up the food chain, if we're going to get to the high school and junior high when we change classes and everybody dumps into the hallways, that we're going to maintain 6-foot distances. Realizing that we have basically at most 4 weeks of school remaining until the completion of this school year, calendar year. I just think it would be good for our Board of Trustees to say, we're going to remain on soft closure till the end of the academic year. And then that puts to rest all of the other conjecture about the possibilities that we may or may not be able to open school. Nampa Christian Schools in Nampa, a very private church, Nazarene school, doesn't have cafeterias or lunch rooms. They don't have any busing. All of their getting to school, 12 through K, is done by cars and parents. And so their issues are different than anyone and everyone's. And so, for the most part, schools are just finding out we're not going to get back to regular school the rest of this year. Let's quit kidding ourselves. We have at least 10 people, staff, that are highly vulnerable, that if we were to try to open school, we'd have to send those people home and hire substitutes to cover them. We don't have 10 substitutes. We couldn't provide busing because we don't have enough bus drivers that are not vulnerable that we could provide that. So all in all, I just would hope that the board would consider reaffirming that school closure for the remainder of the school year is going to be soft closure and deal with ending out the school year in a good way. I think Todd and Chris and staff have done a remarkable job of making this thing work for us and I think they can continue to do that for the next 4 weeks and be ready and getting ready for the start of school next August.
Does anybody have any comments or any additions they want to make on the subject of the hard and soft closure for the rest of the year? Well, sadly, I guess I'm asking for a motion to announce that we're going to close for the rest of the year as far as a hard opening and maintain the soft closure to the end of the year.
I make a motion that we maintain our soft closure for the rest of the 2019-2020 school year.
I'll second it. Any more discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Well, sad day in America. Okay. Well,
I know.
we got no choice but just to sad. 3.4.2, staff resignation. We have a resignation from our 7th and 8th grade reading teacher. Mrs. McPherson. Anybody got any questions or anything about that? Can I have a motion to accept the resignation?
I make a motion that we accept the resignation of Mrs. McPherson.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next thing is 3.4.3, elementary to secondary reassignments. We have several here. Bob, do you want to take this, or do you want me to go through with all these?
Well, the first one, dealing with the position just vacated, Nicole Farkas has requested consideration that if a position such as this were to become available, she would like to be considered for a reassignment to that position. She's got, in her letter of interest, a full array of experiences, both middle school, junior high, and elementary school. So I think it would be well worth our time and experience to make that assignment and fill that position. I think Chris is in full support of that request and consideration.
Okay, we have a thing Mr. Lund recommends. Do you have anything you want to add to your?
Happy to have her up at the high school if she's able to get up here.
Okay, unless somebody has more questions, can I get a motion to reassign Mrs. Farkas to the junior high English position?
Make a motion, we reassign Mrs. Farkas to the junior high English position.
I'll second it. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right?
I think that was mine.
Yeah.
3.4.4, higher administrative assistant position. This would be at the district office. They've done some interviews, and the recommendation was to hire transfer Mrs. Leach from the high school to the superintendent's office. Anybody have any questions on that one? Oh, with no questions?
Is this replacing Ann?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, all in, can I get a motion to approve the reassignment of Mrs. Leach?
I'll make a motion, we reassign Mrs. Leach to the administrative assistant position at the district office.
I'll second it. Any more discussion? With no more discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Did we get an aye from everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 3.4.5, reassignment from attendance clerk to bookkeeper, secondary at junior senior high school. And this, Mr. Lund has recommended that we shift Mrs. House, who is at the front desk receptionist, to the now vacated position of the school
Administrative assistant.
To replace Mrs. Leach.
I make a motion that we reassign Martha House to keeper position.
I'll second it. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 3.4.6, reassignment from library aide at Silver Hills to attendance clerk at Wallace Junior Senior High School. And this is Annalee Spooner from Silver Hills Library to fill Martha Howard's now, or Martha House. New vacancy. I'm having issues, aren't I? So the front office of Mrs. House's.
I make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we reassign Allie Spooner from library aide to attendance clerk at the high school.
I'll second it. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, now we have a 3.4.7, we have a elementary library position open. Can I get a motion to open that position up?
I make a motion that we post the elementary librarian position or librarian aide. Which one is it?
Aid.
Okay.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
An interesting thing, that, just for clarification, in the state of Idaho, your high school librarian / media specialist must be certificated. Elementary schools are not required to have certificated. Anna Lee is not a certificated employee, so it is not quite as high a bar to be met as a secondary school, but it's an integral part of what goes on at the elementary school, because that person is working with every teacher in the building at all grade levels and specializes in having reading time with children and all that. So they become a very valuable employee to what we do. Annalee's done a great job, and we'll miss her, but I think she'll be a great fit for the position at the high school. But we'll need to post the position and begin searching high and low to see if we can find someone that will fit in to what goes on at the elementary school.
We've had a okay, where are we at here before Bob interrupted me? We got a
You ready
motion.
to second?
We
Yeah, we
made
got
a
one.
motion.
Yeah.
We made a motion, I'll second it.
Yep.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I,
I might add, this gets a little confusing, and it doesn't help when Bob interrupts the train of my concentration. Okay, 3.4.8, consider hiring an elementary principal. Now, I missed this additional 3.4.3.2. The fifth, is this the, what is that? Oh, that's Nicole. Never mind. I did miss it. Okay. So now we have a consideration of hiring the elementary principal. We have a letter in our packet from Mr. Howard. And so Bob or Mr. Howard, you guys want to talk about this?
Well, I'd be happy to talk about it, but I don't want to take all night. I shared with you that one of the key issues as I talk with people across the state, legislators, State Board of Education, State Department of Education, and anyone else that'll listen, to the challenging task of finding great teachers to fill in openings when they come along. And I've shared over time that I really believe that you have to grow your own. You need to get them out, seek out students as they come through the school and say, I think you would make a great teacher someday. Would you consider putting that on your list of things as you go on to post-high school training, and maybe someday come back here and student teach, and someday become a teacher in our school or some other, we'll help you get a job somewhere else. And so we have a candidate that has gone through every one of those steps along the way and has been fantastic through all of that process. We posted the position some time ago, and we now, I believe, have 7 or 8 applications. And so one could go through the process and take time and do interviewing and all of that. And I'll quickly share, I won't be on the committee, and I'm very prejudicial in terms of thinking that Brooke has been, according to the good Dr. Reynolds, the best student teacher she ever watched, and she sees them by the thousands. And that Brooke came into our system and became a regular teacher and has been a star all the way through that. Has the support of the staff, has the support of the community, I think would be a great candidate. And I realize there are people who think, well, we punished Mr. Lund and made him go through an interview process, and we should maybe replicate that. I understand, and see all of that. But I just want to say that Brooke would be an excellent candidate to be our principal at Silver Hills Elementary School. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd also like to add that if we go ahead and offer Brooke Miller the position, I think it'll go down as one of the as good as hires we've had in a long time. I think everybody I've talked to about her in this position have been very, very positive in her behalf, and I think the world of her, and I think she'll do a great job as principal. Any more comments or questions or anything on this?
Yeah, I have a question.
Do we have another applicant?
Do we have another applicant?
We've got 7 or 8 applicants. There's 7 or 8 people that have applied.
In your district?
Dr. Randall's dialogue.
No, only one.
Okay.
She's the only one in our district that has applied.
She's the only
one in our
intra-district candidate that's applied. There are other candidates. If we want to go into detail on that, I suggest we go into executive session, because you start talking about personnel, I'm very hesitant to speak publicly about anything more than I've shared.
Dan, did you have something you were going to say?
I have one. Yeah, in Dr. Randall's dialogue, he says that of the applicants, there's only 2 that are credible, truly credible candidates. And I just was wondering about the second one, other than Mrs. Miller.
The other candidate?
Did we go through an interview process with these 2 people?
I think so.
No.
Do we know anything
I would
about
agree.
the second
And we
person
can't
other than
about it.
We can do anything we want. We can just hire Brooke tonight, or we could keep it open and do interviews. My recommendation, what I would like to do is just go and hire Brooke and move forward and be done with this. That's what I'd like to see. But
understand that, but I'm just wondering if, since there's 2 credible candidates, and it's a very important position, maybe we should do interviews of these two people.
hey, what?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I got 2. Who else?
I agree with Dan.
Okay, well, that's enough then. So we will not. I do not need a motion for this one. We'll go ahead and instruct you guys to do interviews. Okay, 3. Yeah, if we get done with these interviews, can we go ahead and do? Should we wait till next month? Or should we just, once we do the
Do a
interviews,
special meeting?
and have a special meeting and get it done so that we can move forward with that? Does that sound? Does everybody agree with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if after the interviews, then we'll have a special meeting and get that position filled. Sounds good. Okay, 3.4.9, hire teachers at Silver Hills Elementary. We have, if Mrs. Miller gets offered the principal's job, and Mrs. Farkas has already been given the middle school English job, we'll have 2 fifth grade teaching positions open. And in your packet, there's 2 people that Mr. Howard has talked about to fill those positions. Should we go ahead and
Wait for the.
wait? Should we go? Well, we can't. We gotta wait for one. One we could go ahead and go with, but should we just wait for both?
I think you should,
Wait for.
timing wise.
So, are you guys okay with the 3.4.8 recommendation, Mr. Howard, just tabling that until
Special meeting.
the special meeting for the principals? And just adding that on to our special meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we don't need a motion to do that, but just advise you guys that we're gonna move that in with the special meeting. The 2 elementary principal, or elementary teaching positions. Okay. We don't 3.4.10, approval for added endorsement alternate routes. We don't need to.
Well,
Is
I think
what-
that can be a part of the special meeting
as well.
discussion, because it deals with these 2
It deals with the 2 in the previous one. So 3.4.10, we ought to table that too to the special meeting. Everybody understand that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. 3.4.11, budget information.
You want me to? Oh, you want to go?
Well, I can go for a ways.
Okay.
I don't know how far out in the grass I want to go or out in the weeds. In our conversations this morning, 2 of our superintendents serve on the governor's committee for K through 12 education. And a letter we received a month and a half ago said, do not begin negotiations. And this was a letter collaboratively complied or coordinated with the IEA and the ISBA, saying that until such time as we get the CARES money from the federal government, we're not going to provide information about budget data. And we've received not one thing from the State Department of Education to date. Now, tomorrow morning, they're supposed to release some of the information we asked for, because God only knows when and if the feds will ever break loose with the money. So people are starting to say maybe we need to begin the process. So B and I are anxiously awaiting tomorrow and to see what information the State Department is going to provide and allow us to begin moving forward with developing a budget. Now, the State Board of Education, or the Idaho Code has very specific dates when school districts are directed to have a budget hearing, post budget information in the local newspaper, and approve a budget by the board and submit that to the State Department of Education. And there are dates that are very code driven about doing that. And so one of the things we're going to ask you to consider in the next item of consideration is to move the school board meetings scheduled from early June to late June and from early July to late July to allow us to conform to those dates specified in Idaho code. But this has been, like everything else dealing with the COVID-19, these are unique times and unique experiences, and I understand where things have been coming from and issues that are going on, trying to work through waiver issues, whether it's transportation, staffing, luncheons that we're passing out, free lunches and breakfasts, on and on and on and on. It's a most unique time, but it's time that somebody get us some information, and we're led to believe tomorrow morning could be the beginning of that. And so that will be a trigger for us to move forward, trying to work on the world's greatest guessing game. One of the things we're certainly anxious about is enrollment. Is it going to be up, down, or sideways? Staffing wise, I think we now have a fairly good idea that staffing is going to be, and programmatically, things are going to be very much the same as they were last year. So ballpark wise, you can have some idea of the number of positions you're going to have to fund. And it was made very clear today that no teacher will make less than $40,000 next year. And so that's going to have a major impact on our budget. Because now we have a group of teachers that are making $38,500 has been, and they were in that first cell. That Dan, you and Dave should remember that we have those people that are in that. They're going to be now making $40,000, and other teachers. So that's basically $1,500, $2,000 raise. That's not going to be afforded to all of the other staff.
Oh, that's going to go over well.
That'll go over well. But so those things are going to confront us. B now knows what the insurance increase is going to be, both liability insurance and health insurance. So a few of those things we've retrieved, and so have that to go from. We certainly have a better idea about our expenditure side of the ledger, because we're going to basically not do any major issues going forward, expenditure-wise. The items that are on the wish list that we've talked about are a part of the budget from 1920. So the 2021 budget will be pretty lockstep of holding the ledger and not taking on any big expenditures. So those are the things that, Mr. Chairman, we're hopeful that the information will be most helpful tomorrow morning.
Okay, any questions on the budget information before we move on to 3.4.12?
I don't know if the clerk business manager has other ideas.
Actually, Bob, you covered almost everything in my notes. So just like Bob said, there are a lot of unknowns. The budget worksheets and funding explanations from the state are expected to be posted tomorrow. They're not 100% sure. And like Bob said, with all the uncertainties, there has been zero flexibility with the state mandated budget timelines and deadlines. So I will just keep you guys updated as the information comes in. Look at this off. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at dates for our next two.
Oh. Dan, do you have a question?
I have one question. If we move ahead with this the communication expenditure for Silver Hills, would that be paid for out of 2019, 2020 money?
It'd be a yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Now we're to the June and July meetings. So we want to make that as wide a span as possible. So we're looking at the first Monday in June, which is June 1st.
No, we're looking at the last meeting of June.
Oh, okay.
The last Monday of June and the last Monday of July.
Oh, okay. So what are we looking at here then? June what?
June 29th and July 27th are the two dates.
July 27th.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions on those two dates and why we're doing it? Any comments about it?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion to move June's meeting to the 29th and July's meeting to the 27th?
I make a motion that we move our regularly scheduled June and July meetings to the 29th and 27th respectively.
I'll second it. Any questions, any comments, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, got everybody? Okay, moving on, 4.0, information items. Our reports from 4.1.1, special education. Mrs. Karst is in your book, your packet. Anybody have any questions on that? 4.1.2, Silver Hills, Mr. Howard.
I had a couple things on the list I wanted to discuss. One we already discussed, and that was that communication system. The second one, we had a committee that met last week to talk about summer school for 2020. Last year we provided a kind of a outside of the box exposure. It wasn't where the kids came in and sat down for the whole day or part of a day and got more instruction. It was set more of a flip type of scenario where students took work home, kind of similar to what we're doing now, and then we provided adult support in the afternoon, early evening for parents to come in or guardians to come in with their children, and then they worked collaboratively with our staff. Looking at the safety precautions, our committee met looking at the timelines of when group numbers change, and we're going to at least move forward in gathering some information through a survey. We're going to collect that information tomorrow during our pickup. We have a couple folks that have been designated to touch base with parents when they come through for the regularly scheduled Tuesday pickup stuff, and they're going to conduct a paper pencil survey so we can kind of look at what parents might look for in a summer school option this summer, keeping in mind that we have social distancing issues, total number of people on site kind of issues, and those types of things. So anyway, so once we get that information, I'll share that out and to the district office, and that can be pushed out to everybody. I would think that we probably wouldn't get anything started too much before June 12th because that's a key date in terms of volume of people. And there again, we have to look at what space we have so we can keep people separated with the social distancing requirements. So anyway, wanted to share that we're at least having that conversation, and based upon our data gathered tomorrow, we'll determine how and if we move forward. So the second item I just wanted to touch base with the board on, and that's a combination of the recommendations that were made for hiring, the process of interviews, and the budget, and that's dealing with our first grade teacher. We kind of have touched on that the last couple months, and oddly enough, things are moving a little bit more quickly than, and we're learning more as we go. We conducted interviews thinking that we'd have some open positions. We had 3 candidates that we were comfortable making recommendations for. The young lady who we thought would work in our first grade slot took a position at her current school, so that kind of removed her out of the mix. So we're back to square one, considering what we might do with first grade. We can go back and look at our pool of applicants. There were 2 or 3 that we did not interview from the first collection, and we have received a few more. But before I moved forward and we spend another day doing that, I wanted to maybe just touch base with the board and get a feel for, with looking at budgets and where we're at with that process, is that first grade position something that the board is supportive of, or, and if not, then I'm not going to have a committee sit through a whole day of interviews to make a recommendation that doesn't go anywhere. So I was just kind of looking maybe for some feedback from the board on moving forward or not with that process.
So Mr. Howard's asking is, does anybody have any comments or thoughts on a first grade teacher? We should go forward looking at that still, or drop it? Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any?
We felt the need. We originally felt the need for the 3rd teacher, so I don't think that has changed.
Anybody
So
else?
it would seem to me that we should go ahead and interview.
Anybody else?
I agree. Are we just concerned of the funding? Would it behoove us to wait a week or 2?
Well, we're gonna have to wait a week anyway. Now, I think what he's asking is if he's wasting his time. Is that right?
Yep.
And he just wants to get a feel from us if we all still feel like we should get another. So we're not gonna hire it until the next meeting anyway. But he just doesn't want to waste time interviewing.
I was just wondering, with the budget, are we confident that we have the funds to do so? I agree that I think student enrollment wise, we need to. I'm just asking opinions.
Well, you're correct about the budget. We don't know. We think we should, but we just don't know. And so we're just, unless somebody's absolutely adamant about not proceeding, because if it's the budget issue, at the last minute we can tell them, you just, no, you didn't waste your time, but we just can't afford it. But that's not what he's asking. He's asking that he wants to keep going forward. And
my only concern is
Dan, and I agree with Dan that we should just keep going ahead, moving forward on this. And then when it comes time to make the decision, we'll have to look at if we can afford it still. Does that make sense?
I agree.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so go ahead.
And I don't want to waste Todd's time, but I think we should proceed with the process.
That's what I agree. I agree with you fully. I think everybody else does too.
Okay.
So, but be ready. We still we're not saying yes.
Right. Well, I don't have a candidate yet.
Well,
I have one question about Todd's report. Under student work, 82% picked up rate. What about the other 18%? How's that work?
Some have been mildly successful. Some are completely disengaged. We've got probably half of those numbers. We've had communication from parents that have said, if there's paperwork I need to fill out to disenroll my kids because we're not doing this stuff at home, I will, to we have a couple kids who have moved back with, we have a student who moved back to Moscow with his dad. He's not doing anything. Then we have others who have, out of the 4 weeks, they've picked up maybe 3, 2, or 1 week's worth of stuff, and then the other 1, 2, or 3 weeks of things they haven't picked up at all. So it's kind of a whole blend of from absolutely nothing at all ever to they've been doing something but not as much as the other 82%.
Well, will those kids move on to the next grade?
We've had a conversation with the staff and the students. If we had students who we had conversations about retention with before the soft closure, and if they are still disengaged, then we have no evidence to support them moving on. But if those kids who are not doing anything now were in good standing before, unless we have extenuating circumstances, they will move forward.
I see. So it's kind of a case-by-case thing.
Yep.
Good job. Good job.
And I have a comment on that. Just some kids are really, it takes a lot to provide the type of service they need, and it's sort of stressful.
Oh, Mrs. Tina's on there?
Yes, that's it.
Tina, I'm sorry I blew past you. I didn't know you were on there.
I'm just back here hanging, but the special, like, it has come up quite a bit with students with special needs across the Silver Valley and trying to deliver things through a remote lesson. And so in Todd's building, even I've had people say, well, these 3 kids as parents were trying to opt out or etc. And I just talked to everybody again today. We've had a lot of COVID meetings. We meet often, and paras are even trying to come up with creative ways to reach kids and families. And people have gotten very creative on trying to do that. I mean, you guys have a population of almost 1 in 4 kids has a, IEP or special services. So when you look at it that way, kind of where your numbers might be coming from too. Just a thought. I don't know if those match with Todd's numbers, but quite a significant group that's difficult to reach just a particular way, and it's hard for their parents to figure it out also.
Any more questions for Mr. Howard? Okay, Tina, I'm going to go back to you and give you an opportunity on your report. I apologize.
Nope, I don't have anything to add unless you guys have any questions on my report, other than we meet often and frequently with all 3 school districts regarding all the COVID-19. I feel like we're all working more than we did previously, and I'm tired of Zoom meetings, so let's just say I'm done.
Okay, any questions for?
I agree.
Any more questions for Tina? Okay, Mr. Lund.
Okay, just a couple things. In my report, I just added our graduation plan. That was the plan that was denied by Panhandle Health and Greg Wilson, the chief policy advisor of the governor. So we went back to the drawing boards. We have a graduation plan that was approved at the end of last week by Laura Whalen at Panhandle Health, and we're going to move forward with that. It's going to be a similar plan that most schools are doing with a drive-in in their cars. People have to stay in their cars. And with us being smaller, there's going to be a couple things that we can do differently than Lake City or Coeur d'Alene. But when I get that plan, or I'll get that plan to you, I can send it out tomorrow so you guys can see what we put together. And we put it in the paper as well. Josh McDonald was in today, and we got that squared away with him. It's been a pretty stressful operation for graduation, but I think we've got a good plan in place. Our scholarship ceremony is going to be next Tuesday at 1:15. We're going to do a Zoom meeting or a Google Meets meeting with our seniors. have our presenters come to the building, and I think we've got that pretty well set up to manage the 10 or less and keep the social distancing for our seniors to be awarded their scholarships. Our sports banquet will also be next week. Mr. Bailey has been working with the coaches and Mr. Young. Mr. Bailey's here tonight. They're going to do a kind of a sports center or NBA, NFL draft type of segment that Channel 3 is going to put on for our sports banquet. It's going to be pretty neat. And the students will have that filed away on YouTube for the rest of their life, so they can go back and observe that. It's going to be pre-recorded, so it's not going to be a live event, but I think it's going to be a neat process that they're putting together for the kids. And then some exciting news: we weren't able to take the SAT this spring due to COVID, but last fall we took our PSATs with our juniors and sophomores. And our juniors, we had 10 juniors that tested into English 101. And that sparked our interest to contact the University of Idaho. And they've loosened the reins a little bit on staff members or high school staff teaching English 101 with students that aren't going to take English 101. So right now we have Mrs. Brackenbush. She's applying to teach English 101 to our seniors next year because we have 10 students that have tested into that, which is a pretty neat deal for our English department, and I think we should give them kudos for that. So any questions on those things for me?
Okay, no questions. 4.2, communication information.
Mr. Chairman, based on our decision to agree and reaffirm soft closure till the end of school, my thought is, with your support, that when we have our last day of academic education, we will cease to provide the busing and free lunch program and breakfast program that we've been providing. I think our people have done a phenomenal job of getting things out to kids, and our drivers taking the packets out, collecting packets and all of those things. But I just think there's a point where our parents and community are going to have to step up and do their part. And that we stop that program that we've been running with breakfasts and lunches throughout the school district as of that date.
Makes sense.
Anybody got any other communication information they want to add? Okay, move into executive session then. Roll call. Or no, we gotta read it.
Yeah.
Who's reading it?
It resolved that the Board of Trustees of School District 393 recess from our regular meeting into executive session pursuant to section 74-2061D to consider records that are exempt from disclosure as provided in Chapter 1, Title 74, Idaho.
Roll call. To go in executive session.
Can I get a second?
Oh,
I second it.
Oh, thank you.
sorry. Roll call.
Dave Rounds,
Yes.
Anna Berger,
Yes.
Amber Valley,
we're out of executive session. We need a motion to.
Wait.
What?
You want to make us record it again now that we're not in executive session?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay,
Is
well,
There
Chris
you
up?
go.
now we're gonna wait for Chris to get back
To
on.
be live again?
Okay, we're live again.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we need a motion to accept open enrollments.
I make a motion that we accept the open enrollments.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.